Good morning and welcome to an Origami Paddler town hall meeting this morning, where we want to address your biggest concerns and let you know how much we care about you. I think first and foremost, we want you to know that we are 100% committed to the vision of our company. And the vision of our company is two things. Number one, that's to increase health and happiness throughout the world. And number two is to make this planet a more beautiful planet by cleaning up the waters. We call that paddling with a purpose. And we know that the Origami Paddler is going to bring you a lot of joy to have that freedom experience that comes from getting out on the water. So this morning, the four of us want to take and address your biggest concerns and share with you as much information as we can to help you feel that you've made a good decision with Origami Paddler. So I'm going to turn it over to Elena and Keely, who are going to ask a series of questions to primarily Tim and a little bit to me as well, to communicate to you the information that we know that you want to have. But I want to say, first of all, that a big blessing and a big sense of gratitude and appreciation to you, our Origami Paddler family, and to Tim, who is the North Star of our company, who set this vision out in the first place, and frankly is one of the best human beings I've had the privilege of working with. So let's get right into it. Elena, ask the first question.
Okay, so the biggest question that a lot of our community has right now is, why are the hinges breaking in transit? Why are they breaking when we're shipping them?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yep.
Okay. The issue, I think, is mainly packaging. We're taking a big object and putting it into a small package. Now, the product itself is indestructible. The polyethylene is fantastic, but the hinges need to be supported, and we're working on that support in that part of the package. And we've made great strides. Let me just say that this is one little obstacle that we've overcome, and we've overcome many, many obstacles this last year, and this is not that big of a deal. But one of the challenges is that we can do all the shop testing we want, but really ultimately we have to send the thing, see what happens, and then make improvements. And we've made great strides in a very, very short amount of time. We have a fantastic team that is very innovative, and so we're making great progress in reducing, first of all, the amount of the percentage of breakages has been very, very slight, but we're trying to get that as soon as we can down to zero. And we've done that very rapidly, and we're getting down to zero very, very shortly. We're also making big improvements for the future.
Got it. I'm going to jump in and add to that. Tim, you made several different really great points there. One of them was that we've done a tremendous amount of testing. None of the problems that we are currently seeing with the hinges happened during our prototype testing, where we were testing the hinges under all kinds of different circumstances. They only showed up when we started shipping product across the country by truck that lasted 7 or 10 days of rumbling in the back of a truck. So it was a surprise to us to have that damage happen. And it has only happened, since we started shipping them across the country. So we've done a fair amount of tests, and now we are testing new packaging materials, and we are optimistic that we are continuing to reduce the amount of breakage every single week with the small changes that we're making in the packaging materials. And we think that soon we'll have this problem completely eliminated.
Let me say one more thing. If we package the thing like normally, you get a tiny little package in this big box. We can't afford to do that. If we did that, if we put a lot of padding around everything, which the boat doesn't really need, it's indestructible, then we would end up with a boat that would support maybe 80 pounds. So we just don't have the luxury of doing that. And that's what this whole company was predicated on, was to be able to ship the boat easily. So that's the original assumption, was that we could do that. We just need a little support with that we have to test by actual shipping with the hinges itself.
Awesome, thanks.
And so
next question.
So sorry for interrupting. On the tail end of that, if they're breaking when they're shipping, How can I trust that they're not going to break in my car when I'm traveling or out on the water when I'm using it?
Should I go for that?
Yeah, Tim, go ahead with you get the first answer on all the questions,
Okay.
unless they're addressed specifically to somebody else.
We did a systematic testing and here in Bellingham, and in all of our testing of on the water and even transport to the water, we never had any problems at all. It was only when we started shipping, we went into production and started shipping, and that was the only time we'd really be able to find out whether there was a problem. And so we're coming up with the solution for that. But the hinges are very durable on the water, and we're continuing to make improvements to make them even more durable all the time.
And I'm going to add to that just a little bit too. We strongly recommend that when you get your paddler, that you take a look at all the hinges. And if you see any cracks or you see any little white stress marks, then be sure to let us know, because it means that that hinge is not safe. And that goes for 6 months from now or for a year from now too. Just like airline pilots inspect their aircraft before they take off, we encourage you to take a look at your paddler and make sure that everything looks just right. You know, that all the pins are in place, that the hinges look like they're in tip-top shape, you know, that all the cords and straps and leashes are in good shape before you take it out on the water, because safety is our biggest concern. We always recommend that you have a personal flotation device and some sort of, you know, warning device. Typically it's a whistle that's connected to your PFD with a lanyard, you know, and put safety first. That's not only your personal safety, watching wind and water conditions and current conditions, but it's also taking a look at the Origami Paddler and making sure that it's just right for you to go out on the water.
Oh, yeah.
We're just putting out a new video that will be online here very shortly. And one of the things is to look for is equipment, that you check your equipment just like a pilot would check his plane over in a pre-checklist, and you check all the things. It's ultimately your responsibility to check that over when you get it, or when you or your whoever goes out in that. And I totally endorse the safety aspect of the thing. Of you know, that's first and foremost.
Yeah, well, we've done a lot from the packaging materials, the guide that's given, to all of our posts and to things that we're planning on, to really make it very easy for you to know, even if you're new to paddling, the kinds of safety features that you should keep in mind and the safety tips. That's why on the second page of our Origami Paddler guide, we have a list of safety tips. But, you know, being in a boat is like using any other sort of piece of equipment. And so it's not just for the Origami Paddler. This is something that you would do with any sit-on-top kayak. And we are committed to that safety. And I think that has really shown through. Even in the shipping tests that we initially did, when we saw that there were some issues and that we talked about it earlier this week and earlier this month, and have been really working with all of our community to not only address it quickly, but to come up with a solution that's getting better every single week. It's something that we're doing every single day to make the origami a little bit better every day for our family. And that's something that I know that we'll continue to do. Another question that this does bring up, though, is how do we know that this is a shipping issue and not a design or a material flaw? And we want to be, I know, very transparent about that, because we don't want for people to think that we're shifting the blame to, you know, the fact that this is just shipping, and that this isn't because of all of the tests that we've talked about doing since Kickstarter.
The design and material issue is, you know, we're doing the best we can. Somebody said, why don't we make a metal hinge? And maybe that was, I'm jumping the gun a little bit here, but we did look into making a metal hinge. One of the issues that we're up against is that we talked to two different companies, one offshore and one in Seattle, and they were simply too busy to make these. It was possible, but it was very complicated. And we're absolutely positive that the plastic hinge is ultimately more durable because it won't bend. One of the things with metal is it bends. So it's a superior material. We are sourcing a different material. The material that we do have, the plastic that we do have is quite adequate, but we're looking at it, always looking for new materials, and it's difficult and timely to do that. So, you know, we're getting the boat out. The hinges are, like Paul said, are very easy to replace. It's a 5-minute unscrew and screw. So it's if we upgrade, then those will be available. So but we want to be able to get the boats out this summer. And if once the boat gets there, it seems like nobody has any problems.
Amen. And we are a continuous improvement company. So the material that we're currently using on the hinges is about the 3rd or the 4th generation of material that we have tried. The first few materials that we had were subpar. We're not as good as the material we're using today. And we continue talking with material scientists to engineer even better materials in the days and the weeks and years to come. So we are a company that's focused on continuous improvement. You can expect that from us. You can expect that over time, the products that we offer will continue to improve in quality. And I do want to make add on to a point that Tim said there about getting these boats in the water this summer. So we have experienced in the first week of shipping, probably about a 10% problem or damage problem. We think that we lowered that to 5% in the 3rd week and the 2nd week. We believe that we are now in weeks to come down in the 1 to 2% range. And while that causes a big issue to the 1, 2, or 5% who had the damage issue, that means that 95% of the people who have received the Origami Paddler are out and enjoying the fun and the freedom that comes from being on the water. So we want to make sure that we give everybody possible the potential of that experience while we are judiciously and professionally handling all of the damage issues that we are seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, you know, we have overcome a lot of other issues that have been, this has been quite a year. So this is just another thing we're working out. It takes a little bit of time, but we are going at warp speed to make this thing work. We have an exceptional team that is very, very adaptive and very imaginative that I'm very proud of. And it's sometimes the 10% or 5% or 1% ends up being a picture online, and you don't see the other 90% of the people or 98% are going to be 100% of the people that are having a great time. And that's what we want to do, is get people on the water this summer.
Yeah. I did have a question, because I know that a lot of the first prototypes on Kickstarter that people saw were metal hinges. But then I feel like I saw something about looking at the sustainability long-term of the metal hinges, but also the recyclability of the metal hinges, because, you know, our goal is to create a product that is as green as possible, that is completely recyclable, all of, you know, that really creates that sustainable, you know, future that's part of our values. Can you, you know, sort of go back and explain some of that process?
Yeah, it was very difficult to make it so the hinges, when you recycle plastic, you have to have clean, unsorted plastic to recycle. So it was a lot more trouble to make it so that the hinges actually clamp on rather than having holes and fasteners. We wanted to eliminate most of the metal. We only have 2 metal inserts that the fins screw down to, but the rest of it it's a beautiful design, because it just unclamps. You take out the screw, and then you have 2 different distinct types of plastic that are recyclable. And the other main thing about this boat, getting back to the shippability of them, if at Ocean Kayak, I had a policy. I started the first sit-on-top kayak company, Ocean Kayak, way back when. And our policy there was, if you can cut the thing back up and put it in a UPS-able box, then we'll pay the shipping back and be 100% responsible for our post-consumer waste. And no other company has ever done that before or since. Now with the Origami, it's even better, because all you do is, wrap it up and ship it. You can put a label right on it, or if you have the box left, then you can put it in a box. But it's very shippable because it folds into a UPSable package, which wasn't easy to do. But that makes it very, very much more recyclable. So that's
It
a
reduces the
huge thing.
carbon footprint. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back and address the question about the metal hinges. So the metal hinges that people saw were on the very, very early prototypes of this product. But for the last year, we have been focused on the plastic hinges and minimizing any metal that's in this product whatsoever to increase the recyclability of the product.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And the next question I have on our list is, what is your R&D team and your engineers? What are they doing to fix the problem that we're seeing?
Specifically, it's kind of like developing a photo that takes a little while. We pack the rest of the boat. The body of the boat has, like I said, has no problem at all. What we're doing was just supporting the end that has the hinge on it, so that if it gets it also has to we learned it has to be able to fall from 4 feet in shipping, and so that's why most packages, like I was saying, have all this packaging around it. But we've done tests at with different support systems underneath the hinge, and so we're basically putting different support systems around the hinge, so that the when it gets dropped from 4 feet, which is really pretty severe, that's more than I've seen anybody on land do that, that the blow will be supported by the hull rather than the hinge.
Yeah. So we're testing a lot of different packaging materials. So we make minor changes in our packaging. And when we do, we ship those products back to our R&D facility in Bellingham from our manufacturing facility in Kansas to simulate the movement of these paddlers across country. So, Washington is about as far away from Kansas as anywhere in the United States is. So we can fairly simulate and duplicate the transportation conditions that our paddlers see. So every time that we make a minor change in the packaging, we not only send it out to a few hundred customers to get all their feedback and find out if we really have reduced the failure rate from 5% down to 2%, down to 1%, but we also ship variations in packaging back to our R&D lab in Bellingham, and they're very careful to analyze every aspect of the boxes that they receive so that we get their input on what the effectiveness has been of our packaging changes.
Yeah.
And one more thing to that is that then this makes it a little bit more challenging, but it's just a challenge, is that we have to relay that information to Kansas. Yeah. So they ship it from Kansas to Washington, and then we look at that and then we get the information back there. Now with other companies that I've started, if I wanted to change something, I'd just walk down and, we'd say, well, we're going to change it. But to change it 1,500 miles away is a little bit more difficult. And but we're addressing that and making those adjustments. But it just takes a little bit of time. But we've done this thing really, really rapidly.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
let me say one more thing about the time. It's every time that we make a packaging change, it takes about 10 days to 15 days to really understand the impact of that, because it has to ship across country, which takes 7 to 10 days. And then we analyze the results, and then we give the feedback to our manufacturing company, and then we make the packaging change for everybody else. So it does take time to improve the quality of the received product, but we are doing it just as judiciously and as diligently as we possibly can.
Absolutely. And we all know that, social media is 24 hours a day. So this question was actually posted 13 hours ago. So that was while most of us were sleeping. But it's a kind of specific questions. So I really wanted to make sure that, we got some feedback on it. In the world of engineering manufacturing, it's standard practice to use CAD or CAM techniques when designing and manufacturing things like hinges and fasteners, and extending the design to include simulation of forces under variable dynamic conditions for multiple materials. I have to ask if this approach was taken and why not, specifically with the maximum weight and the hinge issues that we're seeing.
Well, this is in boat design, when it goes through the water. I'll just say this, and then I'll address the shipping issue. One of the things that you can do is simulate a boat going through the water, but they can only simulate it going through flat water. It's simulating going through rough water or wave conditions has been proved to be ineffective or impossible. So the same thing happens with because you can't put a wave on the waves are so complex, you can't put that on computer to simulate that. So it's more of a trial and error type thing, which we can zero in on, and we've been very, very good at. When you get to, instead of the ocean, when you put a product through the shipping channels, it's the same thing. There's no program that says if it will, pass or fail test in a computer that says, okay, if it does this, this, and this, then it will pass the shipping test.
Yeah.
So the shipping is rather random. There's thousands of people that handle this thing, and each one of them handle it differently. And I wish there was a program to do that, but we can learn a lot.
We've been doing so many live tests, right? Like the ones we've been talking about.
Yeah, and we do use CAD, and we use that as much as we can. We have a CNC. I have a CNC machine that will cut out full-sized products, so we can test out how they're going to go, even how flexible they are. And we've been able to simulate all that stuff. And there's certain tests that we do that will simulate that. And we're learning more about UPS. I asked the driver, what do you guys do with these things? And I got more information from the driver than I did from the office. So
yeah, let me jump in there as well. So we did do CAD modeling, and we did do finite element analysis on the initial hinges, which is why they never showed any problems at all during normal use. What we didn't do, we either forgot to do or didn't think to do, or I don't even know if it's even possible to do that same sort of analysis to simulate the shipping conditions, moving one of these boxes, across the country by truck. So it's really a combination of that science and the engineering of having qualified engineers take a look at the CAD models, doing the stress analysis, doing the finite element analysis that we continue to do, plus the real world testing that we've done from taking the prototypes out on the water with Tim, and now the real world testing that we are doing, shipping the units across country via UPS.
I'll add one more thing that people have that isn't mentioned here is it's the 3D printing. We've employed 3D printing, and I never thought 3D printing up till this point was ever something you could do in production because it's so slow. But we have people that are really good with 3D printing, and they've shown me that it is possible to do 3D printing extra support pieces that we could 3D print, do a CAD model, 3D print, put it in there, and in a matter of days we could improve the performance. We did that with one, and it had a much more improved breakage thing between that and the changing the materials that the hinges are made out of. So it's a work in progress, and it won't stop. We have a product now that we need to support a little bit, but we're making improvements all the time on that.
You made a really good point there, Tim. So our design process really has multiple steps to it. So Tim typically carves something out, and then we do the CAD modeling on it, and then we do all the engineering tests and the finite element analysis on it. Then we 3D print the model out of several different materials and test it out and try it out. And then we spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on molds so that we can create those hinges and other parts, you know, at a fashion that allows us to ramp up to shipping 500 boats a day. So we are extremely careful before we spend those hundreds of thousands of dollars on the molds to make sure that we have a product that we think is absolutely going to work. Then when we create the molds, we test it out with various materials so that we can have the material that's going to work the best. And then we do the real world testing with the real hulls and the real hinges, you know, after having spent, you know, nearly $750,000 on the molds. And then we continue to make continuous improvements and design modifications and material modifications to improve the quality of our product over time.
And I'll add to that, somebody might ask, why do you spend so much on molds? You know, I can make a fiberglass mold in my garage, and that's what I used to do, but it won't, the cost of making it out of fiberglass means it's going to be 10 times as much. I bought a racing kayak just recently here, and it was 10 times as much. It was almost $4,500, and it's very, very light and very expensive, and it takes months to get. So with this technique of these expensive molds, the molds are expensive, but if you make enough boats and you have enough support from supporters like you made this happen. And this is really your company, because we really honor that you put us on the map this way, and we gave you a great deal. The idea of having a boat, even anything under $500 a little while ago, would have been absurd. So that we're able to make you a product that's very durable and lightweight and will last for a long time. And let me add also that this is a sit-on-top kayak. It's the very nature of a sit-on-top kayak is much safer, I feel, my opinion, than a sit inside. And you can't do any FEA analysis on that, but basically with the sit inside kayak, if you flip over, you're swimming. And with our boats, the sit on top concept is great, because it's both a sit on top kayak and a paddleboard. I'm going to get off sales mode. So if that's something people want, we're delivering what people want at a very affordable price. We're getting it. You know, my goal in life is 1 billion butts in boats, and that means beginners and everybody. So I honor and say thank you for all of our supporters that made this company happen.
All right. So why would we still ship things if they're still breaking? And I think that we answered some of this, but also what is our current position in what we're doing in our shipping? Because we've talked about, why, we're continuing to ship product, I think, but I think it's good to address it directly. And then, what's the current status of the products that are being shipped?
Well, the current stat, go ahead.
I'd jump in and answer that. So the reason we're continuing to shipping is because that's the only way we can test the shipping. I mean, there's no other way. You really do need to send a few hundred boats out. You really do need to send a few hundred boats out a week to really test whether or not you've got the packaging down in order to scale up to sending out several thousand boats a week. It's the only way to do it. We really appreciate the cooperation of our community. We're really sorry that any of these are breaking at all during shipping, but it's the only way that we can create a product that will allow us to ship out 10,000 boats a month or more, is to test those shipping changes by actually shipping.
So what are we doing to make it right? If I get a boat that has broken hinges, what happens from the moment I find the hinge, and how is Origami Paddler going to make it right?
We simply send you a new set of hinges, and we can do that in a very short time. And the hinges are very easy to take on and off because it just clamps on the hull, and there's no holes in the hull, so there's no through holes, which that part everybody says there's a problem with the hinges, but the part of clamping on the hull was a monumental thing that was working perfectly, and nobody's knows how well that's working. But it makes it so it's very easy. There's just basically two for each part of the hull. There's a screw that goes down. You unscrew that, pop it off, put the other one on, and in a few minutes it's done. And the Kickstarter group has been very, very cooperative. They're part of this whole experiment, so they funded this thing and they're testing the thing. First, we had 100 people that were designated testers, and we got feedback from them, and then we're getting feedback from the other people, and so they're part of the improvement program.
Gotcha. I mean, I can answer that from a community side. If you open up your boat and there is a problem with it, email us right away at support@origamipaddler.com. The more information that you can give us, like your backer number, or your name or anything that came with the boat, that would be wonderful. We will send you a survey. And in that survey, you can give us pictures. You can tell us exactly where the break is happening. And as soon as we have all of the specific information that we need to help you replace your hinges, we will send them out to you. But we have been doing more than that. We've been getting on video calls with people, and we've been following up with them to make sure that even if they're not super confident in replacing that hinge, that we can, walk them through that process. So everybody behind Origami Paddler is a real person. The people that you're emailing, the people that are responding to your comments, they are real people living primarily in the United States and Mexico and Canada, and they are doing all that they can to address your issues, because we are a community company. The Origami Paddler is important, but making sure that you feel that love and light that we're all about is really important, even if something goes wrong. And I would encourage anyone to email us first, because that's really the best way to get on paper what you need help with. So that way we can have a record of it and we can keep track of you, and we can make sure that you're taken care of as quickly as possible. So there is one, I've been seeing this one idea that is floated through our community group, and I think this is our last question. Someone last night around the 14, in a different time zone than me, it looks like, has asked about how we're currently shipping the origamis, and if we're thinking about maybe shipping them unattached. That actually is their question and their recommendation. And what does the current origami that's floating out the door look like, and how is that different from the first origamis that were floating out the door?
I'm going to take that one because I've been working primarily with our manufacturing team in Kansas to do that. So effective Monday, which is next Monday, the 26th, I believe, is that we're going to start testing shipping the boats disconnected, which means that we're going to fully assemble them, test them out, and then we're going to disconnect it and send the 3 hull sections out separately with some what we call rotational pins in a plastic bag, and ask our customers to finish the final assembly at their place. It's not quite like IKEA, but it's like, 5% IKEA. So when you get the boat out of the box, you lay the 3 hull sections down individually, and then you put in 4 rotational pins. Should take less than 5 minutes or so, and complete that assembly. And we're optimistic that that's one of the final changes that we need to do in the packaging of these products to eliminate or at least minimize any sort of damage that we see during shipping. So we first kind of stumbled onto that idea a few weeks ago when I got my first Origami Paddler. It came disconnected and it came in perfectly good shape. So now we're trying that on a mass scale. So the next several hundred of you that we're shipping out this next week will get Origami Paddlers that are disconnected. And we expect that it will take you about 5 minutes or even less to reinsert the rotational pins, and you'll have a fully operational hopefully completely undamaged craft that you can get out on the water in a matter of minutes from the time that you receive it.
Yeah.
And let me add to this. This was a really interesting discovery we made, because we found that putting these rotational pins in made the boat stronger when you're using it, but weaker, not good when you're shipping it. So we said, okay, we'll take the pins out during the shipping, and you put them on during the once you get the boat. And it makes it a little bit more time consuming to take the pieces apart. That isn't quite as instant, but most of the time people keep the boat together anyway, so it's more convenient, and it makes the unfolding and putting the pin in much quicker. So we've adapted with what we've had, and we've had some interesting, we're learning as we go with this, and like I said, it's impossible to learn until you've actually, there's no computer program that'll tell you the ideal shipping package. We just have to ship it. And we've had great cooperation with our people about getting that feedback. This is a group effort, and I honor and thank all of the supporters for all their support in this.
Yeah, we are through Kickstarter, and it's already a part of the guide and our instruction manual, taking apart the boat in 3 pieces. That was always something that was intended. We thought that it would be easier for everybody to put them together, but if taking them apart means that they make it to you and there's not unusual stress on the hinge, then that sounds like a great plan. Okay, Keely, do you see any other questions?
My dog. If we are taking the hinges apart to ship them, should I also be taking them apart? Should I be taking my boat apart to transport it in my own car?
I'll answer that. Most cars, well, let me first, just to make something perfectly clear, when I was saying about replacing the hinges, we're not talking about that. The hinge will remain clamped on the boat, and then there's a rotation pin that links the 2 hinges together and makes it hinge. And we call it a rotation pin because the boat rotates around it. So the question is, do I take the rotation pins apart when I put it in the car? And if you have to, you can, but 99% of the time, I think the people will just get the boat and put it in the back of their car. It goes into a regular sized trunk or car. And that's the only time you really have to lift the boat once it's folded, which is minimal. Sometimes what people do is they'll kind of slide it out of the car and tilt one end down, so you don't really have to lift it, and then put it onto wheels and wheel it away. So the amount of lifting you do is very, very minimal. And you don't have to lift up on the roof rack, which was.
So I'm going to jump in there and say, generally speaking, the ride of a car, if you put an Origami Paddler in the back of your car, the ride is going to be a lot smoother and the ride is going to be a lot shorter. We don't envision any problems at all if you're taking the paddler and putting it in the trunk of a car and going, 10, 20, 50, or 100 miles or so. If you decided to put the Origami Paddler in the back of a pickup truck, like a 20-year-old pickup truck with worn out springs and shocks, and you were going to drive it across country, then it might be a good idea to separate the 3 whole sections to prevent any sort of damage. But otherwise, we haven't seen any reports of damage that happens when somebody is using the product with normal use. And part of the normal use is putting it in the trunk of your car and driving 10, 20, 50 miles to the beach and then taking it out and using it.
Yeah.
And I think we don't really know because we can't, we don't know what the shipping companies do. But, if I lifted packages all day and they were really heavy and big, I would throw them around too. So, I think it's mostly from throwing them around, and they're used to just tossing things like basketballs. And this one is on the upper limit of it's not actually really close to the limit of regular priced shipping for the companies that ship. So I think I feel like it's mostly dropping from big distances that causes the damage, which doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Which doesn't happen on purpose a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't
Um,
happen like I don't do it. Maybe somebody does, but I think generally people that own the things don't drop it from 4 feet.
Well, I think in our guide, we
You
do
have to be
recommend that,
exceptionally tall.
yeah, in our guide, we do recommend that this is a boat like any boat. If you wouldn't throw a boat, then don't throw an origami. If you throw a boat, I'd like to see the boat that you have, because I'm pretty sure it may have a hole in it and it may not be floating anymore. The last question, and we can cut this out, and that's why I saved it, because what I've seen this morning, the question that I've seen this morning is, are we willing to ship replacement hinge packs as part of the product? And I mean a total hinge assembly, so that if any part of a hinge is broken, they have an extra right there to replace it with.
I'm going to take that one if I may. So we are certainly willing to consider that. We have not decided to do that yet because frankly, we need to think that through, because there are 16 different components to the hinges that go on each Origami Paddler. And we're not sure what, in fact, we would ship out if we had a replacement hinge pack. What we're doing right now is when somebody says this one broke, we get pictures of it. We know exactly which ones of those components to ship, and we ship out the 2 or the 3, or even just the 1 component that they need, and then talk to them about replacing that on their craft. So shipping out replacement hinge packs is something that we are considering, but it's a bit of a challenge to try to figure out what to ship. I don't think anybody wants, a complete 16-piece set with screws and hinge cords and hinge pins and all that, in every box that we ship out.
Gotcha.
And since this, it might get cut, I will say that in full disclosure, some people say, well, I want full disclosure on everything. And something we haven't said before was that we've had really high price increases. So that our profit margin on our first boats to the highly discounted first adopters or the first Kickstarter people, we aren't making that much money. So we've had the price of the plastic for the material for the hulls double, and the prices of the shipping that we decided to just go ahead and do. The cost of shipping equaled the price, or sometimes it was more than the price of the thing that we were getting, because we had to air freight things in because we thought it was the right thing to do to manufacture as soon as possible. So we're taking a hit on that. And then to do that. The other thing I will say, separate subject, is that needless to say, we want to do constant improvement all the time. And if we come out with a more improved hinge, which I anticipate, then that will be available, and some arrangement. So what's nice about this is that the hinge is easily adaptable and can be put on, so that if we have an upgrade, somebody can upgrade if they so desire.
I think that's the end of it. Ladies, do we have any more questions? Hearing none, I just want to thank everybody who took the time to listen to this video. We hope that we have communicated enough information to restore your confidence in us and to help you feel optimistic about receiving a paddler that's going to work and allow you to get out and get on the water, as we hold true to our vision of the company, which is to spread love and light and increase the health and happiness of every one of our customers and everybody on the planet, as their energy that they have ripples out through the universe. A big thank you to Elena, Keeley, and especially Tim, who is the founder, the visionary, the heart of our company, in helping us work through these problems and designing it in the first place, in taking care of our community and making your life as good as possible. So thank you again for watching and listening. And thank you most of all for being a supporter of Origami Paddler and a valued member of the Origami Paddler family. Thanks.
Let's get 1 billion butts in boats.
Amen.